Welcome to Offsite Dirt. This is one of our favorite conversations. We call it High Performance Build. My name is Mark Willey, and today on High Performance Build, we have Ubergreen Spaces and Homes. Audrey, here we are again. Kick us off.
Oh, thank you, Mark. I am glad to be here on Offsite Dirt and talking about our high performance. I love that it comes in all shapes and sizes, and particularly in homes. We have Sai Safi. He's going to actually give us a little background about Ubergreen Spaces and Homes. Hello, Sai. How are you today?
I'm doing great, Audrey. Thank you. Thank you, Mark, for having me.
We're happy you're here. Give us a little background about how Ubergreen Homes started.
Oh gosh, that's a great loaded question, but I'll give you a short version. I grew up in construction. Dad was a general contractor, builder, small developer, and he self-performed just about everything. And my brothers and I worked with him in the field from a very young age. And he had some challenges with his partner. Things went downhill. Then he was pretty solo at that point, kept things small, but we also still worked with him and learned a lot. Got to do all the trades, got to run heavy equipment. He treated us like young men, like little adults. And it was awesome. I loved it. But he always taught us, like, do it right the first time. You won't have to ever do it again. That was a thing that he put and ingrained in our heads. And so something about, like, I think at a young age, saw was in a very smelly basement. He's like, yeah, we couldn't find any way to stop moisture from coming in. He said, but it's up to you guys to figure something out, invent something, make something better. And that always stuck with me. And when he passed in 2007, it was like a year after I'd started my own company, because after having a lot of experience in commercial construction and big jobs like schools and banks and hospitals and data centers, we were always getting blamed as the construction manager as to the problems that the buildings weren't performing. And it's like, hey, y'all got a stamp on this thing, architect stamp, engineer stamp. We're just implementing plan and spec here. And sure enough, it's not our fault. We're just doing it right the way they drew it and designed it. At that point on, I just thought, I need to really collaborate with designers and builders and subs and bring it all together. But we wanted to address that challenge that the people always concerned about, that they always complain about, that they always that puts contractors on the number 1 or 2 spot of most hated professions in the country, And so I was like, all right, so we started our own company, GCCM Construction Services, Ubergreen Spaces, and started doing some private work, commercial work for some nonprofits. And there was like a school, a community center, and their board was full of people that didn't do construction, didn't understand construction. They were just, their daytime jobs as maybe educators, doctors, business people, just anything but construction and engineering and architecture. And so they were asking us, after trying to explain like unforeseen conditions and change orders and this and that, then came the, hey, at my house, when my builder did this, my sub did that. Then came the complaints. Then came, can you come over and see our stuff? And I was like, you know what? We need to, like, it was just frustrating, dealing with commercial being very diligent and then residential being wild, wild west, and not being able to be respected as a profession, where we were really looked at and bad name was put out there for us just because of people's, say, lack of knowledge and experience and knowledge base or what have you. But after looking at some of these challenges that they're having in their homes, I thought, you know what, this is a good opportunity to see if we can find ways to address this. And I was looking at third-party programs, and that's when the pilot program for Lead for Homes came out in 2006, I think, pilot program. And so I was like, wow, this is great. Talks about all these things they're talking about. Let's do it. And then I learned about Passive House, and I was like, oh, shoot, this is great too. This makes sense. And so it combined those things in this one house called My Green Kentucky Home about 2008. It didn't happen because the economy dropped. Then by the time that they got their land, we were able to build My Great Kentucky Home, first net zero energy, net zero water home in Kentucky in 2012. And that we used as a example to show people, hey, everything you're complaining about in the house, we've addressed it. And we've taken care of things that you probably didn't know were issues that, are issues like sound of an HVAC system or dust, things like that. And so, and then just like acoustics. And these are so many things that were addressed. And that's kind of how it all kind of started. And we love doing things that challenge us. And to do that project itself, we had to self-perform a lot of the work because our subs doing commercial work, they were obviously way more qualified, higher skilled, more costly. So it didn't make sense, and nor would it fit in the budget to be able to have commercial people do our water barriers, air barriers, vapor control layers, peel and sticks of our foundations and our ICF. We had to do it. And so we taught ourselves, we learned it, we did it, we get our hands dirty to this day.
So I love that bottom line feature of we go back those years that you did the zero energy, zero water waste. It's a whole other category that's still not commonplace. The self-perform aspect and bringing that responsibility right into the crew where it needed to be delivered is that starts passion. Clearly, that's what y'all have. But this term, right? This term high performance, it's a foreign language. The marketplace is often used to, let's call it a poorly delivered wall, right? Or a problematic assembly, or a mechanical system that delivers heat and cooling, but fresh air, what is that? So deliver for the marketplace what high performance means to you, Si.
It means to us that to the marketplace, if we're saying, hey, what is high performance? Well, take your traditional build and let's talk about what's missing. Why isn't it performing? Do you have a continuous air barrier? What's an air barrier? Well, yeah, no, you need that. Do you have a water barrier? Yeah, you need that. Do you have a vapor control layer? These three things are typically missing. And then additional to that, you do have insulation, but do you have the right kind of insulation? First question. And then do you have the right amount of insulation? And then how about your windows and doors? What are the performance specs of those? Does the thermal boundary and your thermal boundary and your air tightness and the amount of insulation on that thermal boundary, does that all work for your climate zone? And so those three things are what's missing in a home. And then when people say, well, it's going to add more cost. Well, how does that look when your energy bills are $300, $400, $500 a month, as opposed to below 100 or average 100, 120, depending on what size home you have in your usage. But there's a substantial difference in, having those items and not having those items. But then those items alone take care of all the things that allow us to have comfort inside, allow us to control our indoor environment to make it healthy. It allows us to have a lower energy bill, a less operating expenses, less maintenance. And so, and then overall happiness. And then when people say, oh, this added cost, well, that's what the Appraisal Institute's there for. They spent years creating that green residential addendum that allows you to check off, yeah, I got that. Yeah, I got that. Yeah, I got that, which you don't find on a typical MLS. And then when they do, that gets added to the value of what your home should appraise to. That's if they know what they're doing. Now you got your money back. So that's what the marketplace has to understand, is that there is a difference. There's stuff that's missing that needs to be there. And mainly those things that are missing are essentially what's on the envelope of the building. These are static things. This is not dynamic. We're talking about the first, the rules of design when it comes to proper orientation first, so you have it sitting right with the sun, so you can have natural daylighting, have natural heating, throughout the winter when the sun's lower, those aspects, and then have it also oriented to where if you are going to do solar, it's also pointed in the right direction for solar at the right angle. And so when those are figured out, orientation, then you have, your shell for your climate zone, your air barrier, your right amount of insulation, right types of insulation, right windows and door specs. Those are all static. And at that point, that brings down your energy by like on average 80% energy usage and need for the heating and cooling. And so now we can get talking to the artificial stuff, fresh air, mechanicals for artificial heating and cooling. Those things are like 3 or 4 or 4 or 5 on the list of design. And so if we just take care of that shell, and that's where the beauty of focusing on the walls, the windows, the doors, the roof, just that structure, that's the beauty of why modular and panelization is important, just to get that thing right. Because then anyone else coming in, it could be easy for them.
Amen. Amen. Oh my gosh, you are speaking our language. What attracted you? I know that you come from this construction background, and I'm sorry to hear your father passed, but he obviously built in some genius in you, and we're seeing that in Ubergreen. Why do you think panelization right now is something that needs to be considered? And why are you building with it, other than we know all these things that you just told us, but what was like, this is it. We are going to start building with these panels. We can have these efficiencies, and this is how we're going to start our business.
I'd say the fact that panelization is so important going forward. It's been important for years, although that importance has been about, I think, making volume work be more cost effective, like apartments and things like that when it comes to framing. What's I think most important about it is that you got several scopes of work in just one piece of material. If we call a wall panel a product that we're going to sell, you're talking about rough framing, you're talking about, that's division 6, then you got division 7, your water barriers, your air barrier, your vapor control layer. And then what we do is we also put a drainage mesh over that. Thank you, Joe Stiebrick, for vetting our stuff. And then we put our outboard insulation, which is of a certain density, which then you got another division there for insulation. Then you got furring strips if you need it, or you have another mesh of some sort if you're doing stucco. And then you have your openings that you're also flashing. It could be obviously of the liquid type, the peel and stick type. Additional to that, there could also be, some metal flashings in certain areas. So we're talking several pieces of work that not everyone can do very easily in residential at all. It almost these are pretty familiar with a lot of people in commercial, but all these different things I rattle off would be by a different contractor in a different. So you got different quality control going on. You got so, and then if you're doing it out in the elements, there's also that challenge there. But that importance there alone will help us if we can do more modular and prefabricated high performance walls. Then that can just help it come to the market a lot quicker and a lot easier, because there is a learning curve. There is a lot that's thrown at somebody to think like, oh gosh, how do I make this wall dew point safe? Or at least maybe some people don't think that way. But when you start talking about all these layers, people start worrying about what's the right kind, how am I going to trap water, moisture in there? Am I going to mold this wall up? Am I going to this and that? So they worry about those things. But if you have already figured it out and you can give it to them to be safe for them, dew point safe, and to be a wall that they could just throw up and it won't add more time to their project. It may even like save some more time. then that would be the most beneficial for everyone. And where we've seen, it's funny, Mark and I, we talk shop offline quite a bit, and we've seen, him and I were talking about just how there's more people out there that are asking for this as an end user. And when they talk to their builder, or they talk to their general contractor, or they talk to their designer, they get some sort of pushback, or they have this, I don't know how to do that. And sometimes they will say things that discourage the owner to do it at all, because they don't know how to do it. And if they're able to find these products or these systems that we are putting out there, or we will partner with them on, then they'll be like, oh, that's the missing piece of our puzzle. That's going to encourage us to lean on them, ask them questions, share their experiences with us, and let us challenge you to say we do want to do it. And that will help people, or at least we've helped a lot of people go from a absolute no or a I don't know to let's rock and roll.
Rock and roll indeed, right? It's a magical conversation to bring up the fact that if we don't know about something, then we bring in dialogue to say it's not important. And we've all experienced over the last several years, indoor air quality is a conversation for people's homes and for people's dinner tables and restaurants. We know that even on the presidential stage, they were talking about operational carbon, right? It was words that two political giants were having. Embodied energy are things that you're hearing in the marketplace. So when professionals that are trying to lead in their space are ushering forward their attempt to land a project, and they're bringing in those simple words like we talked about before, maybe green or sustainability, but later on they're bringing in their philosophies and their practices on how they measure what they're doing. This also brings forward the fact that the liability is lessened, right? Because now the buildings are delivered quicker, they're sealed up quicker. That lessening of a liability is something great for all contractors. When you hear that dialogue of resistance, don't let that stop you. Turn around and share with them the words that you learned either on your own through the YouTube or social media or the LinkedIn, whatever that is, and then say, I met these contractors. This is what they said. These are the trainings that they took, and it landed for me. So share that with the marketplace. So you're great at sharing this stuff. What are some events or people in your life that said, this resounds for me, this works, and this is why I keep moving forward? Share some of that.
That's interesting. I think that it's a good question, because or ask of me, because I think a lot of people on our team in Ubergreen becomes the ones that, since we're all as a team, we think that we should all be open to different ideas, different thoughts, different solutions, because we always have to think. We have to think up high as what's the end goal? The end goal is to certainly reduce our energy usage, to reduce our footprint, even leave a handprint, and to just do good for all living things. And when we have that in mind, and we're also encouraging each other to take in new knowledge and and to be open to different solutions, it allows us to then encourage each other to try different things. And so, people on our team are like always, they've encouraged me to do certain things, and then they've encouraged us to do different projects like containers, or trying or doing. Well, we've gone into placemaking, for example. placekeeping, and because we see that that is something that is needed and that will help folks, but we always keep in mind that our end goal, and if that's performance, if that's comfort, if that's durability, then we could get there many different ways. It's just, let's find how we get there to where we can still meet the owners, the people, the clients, meet them where they're at. And if they can't go too far, let's get them to as far as they can go with their budget, with their restraints, or whatever it might be. And if it has to be this product and it meets the end goal, let's go with it. Yeah, that may not be as good of an embodied energy in it, but what's the alternative? If you don't do this, then they're not going to do anything at all, and now they're going to have a way worse of a footprint. So it's just really being adaptable and flexible is how we like to move. And luckily, we've been, I'm a CPHC, a CPHB, and we have the same, we have our team members in Ubergreen are as well. We're able to look at it as a designer, and we're able to look at it as a builder. We also, since we self-perform, we're able to look at it as subcontractors, and so consultants too. So we can feel with you. I feel you. I feel your pain. So when we do, we want to empathize with folks, even as an owner, where we play owner in some roles. We have to be able to empathize and truly understand where people are coming from to be able to come up with a solution. And we don't have any ego when it comes to this. Our only goal is to help as many people as possible. So if you just want us to say consult you, that's great. We'd love to do it. If you want us to say install your fresh air system, your ERB, that's great. We'll help you design and put it up. If you want us to do just your air barriers or put in your triple pane windows and doors, we'll do that. Just anything to help you achieve what may not seem achievable, or you may not be able to find someone to help you do.
Wow, that's a rarity. And I love it. I love it, Ty, how you're like, we feel your pain, right?
Hey.
Not only do we feel your pain, now we've got a solution, and we're going to talk about it, and we're going to educate you, and we're going to talk about energy, and we're going to talk about healthy living. And you're doing all of that at Ubergreen Spaces and Homes. And we are so grateful that you are changing the conversation, that you are doing what you are set out to be doing, which is helping our planet, helping our homes, helping us live healthier lives. Thank you so much for being on Offsite Dirt. Thank you so much for educating us and helping us to understand high performance, not only high performance, but also an offsite solution with a panelized wall system. So thank you for being here.
Thank you. I really appreciate you all having me. Mark, always a pleasure. Audrey, my new colleague and friend, thank you.
My pleasure. Now we have another show on Offsite Dirt. We're happy to have you all here. Have a great night. And next time you're thinking about living healthy, thinking about a new panelized system, or have a question because you've got some pain, we might actually have a company that can help service that. Thank you for being here.